Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be all about my labor and delivery story. If you're new here, hi, my name is Talani. I'm basically going to be doing this video while I do my makeup because I'm trying to multitask. I know it's been a while since I've been here on YouTube, but bear with me. I'm warning y'all, it's going to be a long one, but I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it. So as you can see, I have a newborn here. She is going to be 3 weeks in about 4 days or so. She was born June 15th. And yeah, my labor and delivery experience was not the best, but let me just go ahead and start from the beginning. So as y'all already know, I have a 2-year-old. She's gonna be 2 in like 2 weeks, so I'm just rounding up. She's 2 years old. So I used the same doctor that I had used for, when I had Lore, because I didn't have any issues with her. I didn't have any issues with my labor and delivery, really. I mean, nothing major with having Lore at first. So I used her again for this baby. Her name is Tele, by the way, Teleola. And I didn't have any issues going, I had my monthly checkups with her and everything. And so fast forward, I think I was about 35 weeks, and she all of a sudden is like, hey, I'm gonna advise you to switch your hospital that you're registered into this other hospital that I'm registered in. And I'm like, oh, why? And she goes on and on about how, after COVID, a lot of things have changed, and the nurses there are like, she doesn't really trust them. They're all new. They're all like recently graduated. They don't really listen to her. She's just going on and on about like the hospital. At first I'm thinking, okay, this sounds kind of like some politics. Maybe she doesn't like the administration or something. But then she keeps going on and kind of talking about how like they had a maternal death there like a year or two ago, and like the nurses don't really listen to her, and she just doesn't feel like it's safe for her patients to be delivering there. So at that point I'm like, okay, cool, like I'm gonna listen to whatever you're saying, because I mean I don't really have any reason not to believe you. And so I go home and I do a little bit of research on the other hospital, and I talked to my mom and my sister. And, the reviews for that hospital were not good at all. Like, I was actually kind of like, wait, hold on a minute. Like, what's going on here? Like, I don't think I feel comfortable, delivering at this hospital because the reviews are quite bad. And so, I'm freaking out. At this point, I'm thinking, okay, I might need to get another doctor because, like, I don't think I want to deliver here. And she can't deliver at, this is the only other hospital that she can deliver at. So, I'm freaking out. I talked to my husband. I talked to IBK. And he's kind of like, just set up a meeting with her, try to talk to her and get an understanding of, this hospital that she's recommending you to go to. And so I did that. I set up a meeting with her, like a teledoc, whatever meeting, virtually. And she's like reassuring me like, hey, I know the reviews aren't that good, but the nurses there are excellent. They're really experienced. And she trusts them. And she's gonna be monitoring me, and she'll be there, and all that stuff. And so she's really assuring me. And I specifically asked her, are you gonna be there to deliver her? Because I'm concerned about this hospital, but like obviously I know you and I trust you, and I just kind of need some assurance. She's like, yeah, definitely, I'm gonna be there. The reason why I asked her is because my mom. So as I'm doing research about this hospital, I talked to someone that knew a nurse that worked at the other hospital that I wanted to deliver at. And she's like, I don't know what this woman is saying, that yeah, there's been some changes, but there haven't been any issues. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. And then my mom, she had a friend that worked at this other hospital that my doctor was recommending me to go to. And she was kind of like, oh yeah, the hospital is not as modern, but the nurses are great. Like, she's kind of saying that the hospital is fine, that I shouldn't be worried. And she's like, she asked for who my doctor was, and she's like, oh yeah, I know that doctor. Just be careful because I don't really think she delivers here. Like, she sends her patients here, but she doesn't. I personally haven't seen her really show up to deliver her patients. And she usually gets the other doctors to deliver her patients for her. And in my mind, I'm like, I told my mom, like, I don't believe that. Like, she reassured me that she was gonna be there. Like, I don't really believe that. Anyways, keep that in mind. So after that, I kind of was like, okay, cool, whatever. I'm just going to deliver. I can't be stressed because there was a lot of stuff going on at the time. I was like, I can't really be stressed about this right now. I'm just going to deliver at that hospital and just hope for the best. So let's fast forward to the day of my labor. Sunday night, yeah, going into Monday, I was having contractions, pretty painful contractions, but I didn't really think it was like labor. I just thought like maybe I was just getting closer to getting into real labor. And so I had contractions throughout the whole night. It was kind of painful. At some point, I was like, okay, maybe I should go to the hospital. But then I was like, nah, because they weren't very consistent, and I just didn't think it was the real thing. So, and I knew that I had a doctor's appointment the next day. So the next day comes by. At this point, my contractions kind of went down. They were coming in, but not really painful. Just kind of felt like Braxton Hicks. And so, let me do my eyebrows. Sorry. This is really hard. Like, how do people do this? So the next day, I had my doctor's appointment. And so she's checking me, and she's like, oh my God, like, you are 4 centimeters dilated. You're basically ready to go. Like, as soon as your water burst, you will basically, like, it's going to go quick. Like, you're going to have this baby today. And I'm like, oh, like, I was so happy. Y'all don't understand. I hate being pregnant. I'm sorry to say it, but I'm just not one of those people that enjoy being pregnant. Like, I was ready to have this baby, like, at 36 weeks. Like, I was so ready. And at this point, it's 39 weeks. So anyway, so I'm, like, super excited. She's like, yeah, how far are you from the hospital? Go ahead and, make your way there now. And I'm going to call them and let them know that you're coming. Because she's like, all I have to do is break your water and this baby's coming out. Or if your water breaks on its own, that's fine. But she basically was like, she's going to come, break my water, I'm going to have a baby. That was my impression. So I had my mom take me to the hospital. I called my husband, like, hey, it's go time. Come meet me at the hospital, because he was at work. And so he comes. I get to the hospital. Everything's going good. Like, I'm chilling. I get my epidural because, I ain't about that pain life. And everything's going well. I will say this time around, because I got an epidural with my first daughter, and I don't remember it being painful. But this time around, like, it was kind of painful. Like, he had to try twice. Like, so, but anyways, I was fine. Like, I didn't really have any complaints at that point. And all my nurses, by the way, were great. Like, I had, I think in total, I had 2 nurses during labor, and then, like, my postpartum care, I had 2 nurses as well. And they were all amazing. They're all Black nurses, too, which I was grateful for. So, and I say that because I guess I can pivot here. If you don't already know, as far as statistic goes with Black maternal health in this country, it's horrible. I try not to read a lot of, like, stories and stuff, especially when I was pregnant, but it's just really scary when you do the research and see, like, how, the numbers are for Black pregnant women and going into labor and, not making it, or having a lot of complications, or having to have unnecessary C-sections, and just in general, it's just not, if you're not living on the rock, you already know that the Black maternal death rates are very high in this country. So that's in the back of my mind this whole time, and part of the reason why I was, very apprehensive of switching hospitals and all that kind of stuff. My doctor, by the way, is not a Black woman. But again, I had a great experience with her during my first delivery, so I wasn't worried at all going in. I was just worried about the hospital and, like, the nurses and all that kind of stuff. But the nurses in this hospital ended up being great. And then I ended up having all Black nurses, which is something that I was concerned about, because you'll find out later. Anyway, so let me go on with the story. So I get my epidural. Everything's going well. I'm chilling. And then I think this was around I got to the hospital maybe like around 3 or 4 p.m. I can't remember. But fast forward, they're just kind of checking me, and I'm progressing. Like, I think I went from 4 to 5 to 6 to 7. Like, I was kind of progressing every hour, I would say, for the most part. And then I would say around 9 p.m., this medical student came in, and she was like, oh, hey, I'm here to take an ultrasound and see how baby's position. And I'm like, ultrasound? Why are we doing an ultrasound now? Like, I was just, like, really confused. Like, what is going on? But I didn't say anything. And so I'm thinking I'm done with my eyebrows. And so after that, then my nurse comes in, and she was like, oh, I don't know if you've been told, but your doctor's not coming, and your care has been transferred to, the hospital doctors. And I was like, huh? I literally thought she was joking. I thought I was, like, being pranked. I really did. Like, I was so confused. And, yeah. So I thought she was joking, but clearly she was not. And she was like, yeah, I think, your doctor has some type of emergency and she's not going to be able to make it. So I'm freaking out. I'm upset, obviously. And in my mind, I'm thinking back to what my mom said about how she doesn't show up. Keep that in mind, all right? And I'm freaking out. My mom and IBK are with me, by the way, during this whole time. Thank God, because they, at first I wasn't sure if they would allow more than one person. But anyway, so that happens, and then this lady comes in. I'm assuming she's a doctor, and she's like talking about, what they're planning to do. They're planning on breaking my water to speed things along, and then, deliver my baby. And then IBK is kind of like, wait a minute, like, we don't really know you. Like, we're still trying to process this whole thing about my doctor not coming. Like, we're just kind of apprehensive because we had a plan. Like, we had the plan. My doctor was supposed to deliver her and all of that. So she's like, oh, I understand. That's fine. I'll give you a little bit of time to decide on what you all want to do. And, she goes away, and then we're talking. Obviously, I'm pissed, emotional. I think I was crying. I can't remember. But anyway, so another doctor comes in, and this time it's a man. So he comes in. He gives us like this whole speech about how, this is not. He knows that this is not the plan that I had, but this is the best. That basically this is like my only option. Like, she's not going to be able to come, and that I shouldn't worry that him and his team are going to take good care of me. And then he's making jokes. He's like, oh yeah, we're going to break your water. I'm going to let my team. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I being too loud? He makes a joke about how like they're gonna break my water, but he's gonna let his team do it because their hands are smaller. In my mind, I'm like, why is this man making jokes? Like, I'm clearly like damn near in tears. Like, I'm not trying to hear any of this now. But he seems cool. Like, he seems like he's like I don't know, at least trying to be understanding. So, and then at this point, I already know that I don't really have an option. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Let's just go with it. Like, I'm fine. Let's, y'all can take care of me, basically. All right, so the next thing that happens is 3 women come in, one of which is the medical student that came in initially and brought the ultrasound, which at that point they had taken away because the doctor was like, why is this here? Anyway, so it's 3 of them, and then the first one, she's like, hey, I'm here to break your water so that we can progress this along. And I'm like, okay, fine, because in my mind, I was already under the impression that my doctor was gonna come break my water. Sorry. See, she's upset too. She's like, I remember all of this. Anyway, so in my mind, I already had the impression that my doctor was going to come in and break my water if my water hadn't broken already. And so I was kind of okay with them breaking my water. That wasn't really the issue. I was just like confused as to who these people were at the time. So she says, I'm going to try and break your water, and then she's going to come in right behind me. When she says she's referring to that medical student, right? And so, mind you, in my mind, I'm kind of like confused. I'm like, what is going on? Like, who are these people? Like, I'm kind of processing all this stuff, right? And so I'm not really saying anything. I'm just kind of like, what the heck, right? This is like my worst nightmare come true. These 3 white women that I don't know are about to like break my water. I'm hella scared. So the first one tries. She doesn't feel anything. She can't break the water. And then the second one, the medical student, in hindsight, I really wish I would have been like, no, because I knew at that point that girl was a medical student, but I was just like, I won't say in shock, but I was just like frozen. I don't know how to explain it, but so she goes in, and at this point, my mom is freaking out because like she's like shaking while she's doing it. And if you don't know, when they try to break your water, it's like this long like stick thing, and it can look scary. And so she's like shaking while she's doing it. And my mom's like freaking out. She's like kind of yelling in Yoruba though, but not in English, so they don't obviously know what she's saying. But she's basically saying like don't hurt my child. Like, who's this girl? Don't hurt my child. So she's going on with her dramatics, very, very valid dramatics. Because if I was in my right mind, I would have been freaking out loud as well. And then I look over at my husband, and he's just like, this is him. He's just like looking like trying to calm my mom down, but like he looks very worried. So I'm freaking out internally. And then I remember the third one was like, oh, you look tired. And in my mind, I'm like, tired is not the emotion that I'm feeling right now. I'm frightened. Obviously, I didn't say anything. Again, I was just quiet this whole time. And so obviously the medical student, she couldn't do it either. And so at this point, the nurse kind of steps in and like, hey, let me just kind of turn you to the side and let's take a break. And so the third one's about to like try herself. And then the nurse was like, oh no, like let's give the baby some time to relax. Like let's take a break. This woman did not listen to her at all. She went straight ahead. She's like, "Oh, it's okay. I can do it in this position," and just goes right in. I'm like, so y'all not even gonna listen to the anyways, completely ignored her. And I remember thinking like, what the heck? So she goes in, and then I guess what happened was like her head was like blocking the water from coming out, but my water had already broken. So because I switched positions, she was able to, like, I don't know, figure it out. And so that whole thing happened. And so after they all left, I remember turning to my nurse and was like, okay, who are all these people? Because, like, and who's gonna be the person delivering me? Because I'm so confused at this point. I've met like 5 people, or 4 people at this point, a man and then these three women. And so she then explains like, okay, the only doctor that's here is that man that came in earlier and like tried to, give you that whole speech. He's the only doctor. And then this is his team. So the 2 girls, one of them is the 3 girls, one of them, as you know, is a medical student, and then the other 2, they're not doctors, they're a resident. The last one that checked you is like the main resident, like the head resident, right? And he's like his partner. And I was like, oh, okay, well, can you let them know that I don't want any medical student or resident touching me? Because at this point, this is not what I signed up for. Like, I completely understand that medical students and residents are doctors. Like, I understand all that, but I did not sign up for none of this. I signed up for my doctor to deliver me. And so the last thing I want is like strangers delivering me, not to talk of like medical students and residents delivering me. Like, I want a doctor to deliver me, period. Like a doctor with a lot of experience to deliver me. That's what I feel most comfortable about. So I told her all of this, goes, and she's like, okay, that's fine. She's like, I could tell that you look really uncomfortable doing that whole thing, and I'll talk to them. So she talks to them, and then talks to the doctor, and then she comes back and lets me know that that it's fine, that what's going to happen is that the doctor is going to be the one to deliver me, but his partner, the head resident, is going to be in the room to observe, but no other person is going to be there. Like, none of the medical students or other residents are going to be there. It's just going to be the main doctor and then the head resident. Again, the head resident is going to just be observing. So I'm like, okay, cool. Boom, we're good. I'm feeling better. I'm feeling more confident, whatever. I think maybe like 30 minutes have passed now, and she checks me and is like, so, oh, wow, like, you're basically ready to push. I was like 9.5 or something like that, or like, I think I was basically at 10. And so I think at that point she called the doctor to come in. And guess who came rushing in with, wearing her gloves and telling me, all right, it's ready to push? The head resident, right? And so I remember thinking, wait, what? This is not what. But then I'm like, I'm about to push. Like, I don't want to start causing like an issue when like the baby's about to come out. So I didn't say anything again. And when you look back on things like this, you're like, oh man, I wish I would have said something. But at the time, like, I feel like a lot was just going through my mind, and like I was just more scared, especially because of the situation I'm in, about to have a baby. Like, I didn't want to offend anyone. I didn't want to like cause anything to delay like things. I was just, and then most importantly, I was just like in shock / numb, so I didn't say anything. But the head resident comes in, rushing in, and she's like, okay, you ready to push? And I'm like, at that point, I'm like, okay, well, this is happening. What am I supposed to do? And I wanted to also point out, like, I didn't really get good vibes from this girl. Like, she just seemed like the type of person that, like, she just seemed like very robotic, and like the way she talked, it just seemed like she was reading a speech, if that made sense. Like, she didn't get any kind of like empathy type feeling from her, so I wasn't getting good vibes from her to begin with. And the main doctor, he came in as well, but he was like kind of standing in the back, like observing. In my mind, I'm like, this is literally the opposite of what I was told was going to happen. So they literally ignored me. They knew what I wanted and just decided to do whatever they wanted anyways. Like, I literally felt like the lesson of the day, or like a lab specimen, or like a freaking animal or something. Like, I didn't feel like a human being. I didn't feel like I was being treated like I was a patient. I feel like I was being treated like a lesson, a lesson that his students needed to learn that day. Like, oh, how do you break a water? This is how you break water. Like, oh, how do you deliver? Like, I just felt very, it was not a good feeling, basically. But so let's go back to the story. So it's time to push, and They tell me to push. So I pushed the first time. I think her head came out or something. And then I pushed again, and then a little bit more came out. And then so the third time when I'm about to push, the head doctor, the actual doctor, the guy, he's like, stop, 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 stop. And I'm like, oh, hell. What's going on? Like, did these people mess up? Like, what is going on? Oh, did this lady mess up? And he was like, then he turned to the girl. Oh, let me blend this out a little bit more. It's looking a little crazy. He turned to the girl, the woman, I should say, and he's like, we don't want her to tear too much. I was like, I don't want to tear at all. Why didn't y'all tell me this to not push as hard the first 2 times? God, so I'm getting upset just thinking about it again. So when he said that, he's like, okay, what we're gonna need you to do is just do like since you're a really good pusher, just do like really quick little pushes. So the third push was like a series of like maybe 2 to 3 quick little pushes, and then she came out. And so yeah, that part, like the actual like delivery was like pretty easy and straightforward. But then afterwards, you know, they brought the baby to me, but like it wasn't skin to skin because I still had my dirty ass freaking what's it called, hospital gown on, and so they put her on me, but not like directly on me. And I remember with Lori, they made sure to like take out my hospital gown and made sure that I got that skin to skin like immediately. But in this situation, that didn't happen. But then at the same time, the lady's about to cut the cord, and I'm like, oh wait, I want to delay the cord clamping. And she's like, oh, we already did that, and then clamps the cord. I'm like, again, completely ignored what I said to her and just went ahead and did whatever she wanted to do. And they take her away from me. So she's basically on me for like maybe 1 or 2 minutes. And then they took her to like, you know, do all the measurements and all the stuff that they typically do after the baby was born. And I noticed after a while they were done, but she was still just like there crying. And I'm like, can my husband hold her? Like, what's going on? And so they're like, oh yeah. And then they get her and they give her to my husband, and he's holding her. Right before she starts, I guess, stitching, I asked her, like, oh, did I tear? She's like, oh, no, it doesn't look like you tore, because she's, like, cleaning me up. And then afterwards, I noticed that she's starting to, you know, stitch me up. And I'm like, oh, how much did I tear? And she's like, oh, just a little bit. And so, like, a couple minutes passed by, probably more than a couple minutes, maybe like 10, 15 minutes passed by. I'm like, this girl is still stitching. Like, damn, in my mind, I'm thinking, how bad did I tear? I remember asking her, how bad is the tear? And she was like, oh, it's what we call a medium-sized tear. So I'm like, you've gone from, oh, you didn't tear at all, to, oh, just a little bit, to now it's a medium-sized tear. So yeah, at this point, I'm literally just over it. I'm like, yeah, this is just not. And then it kind of took away from the moment because, like, I'm kind of pissed, but then, like, I just had a baby. It was just a lot, y'all. And then when she was explaining, like, the medium tear, I felt like she was, like, talking out of, like, a textbook or something. She just sounded so, like, robotic. I don't really know how to explain it, but I was just over it. But anyways, after she was done stitching me up, I finally got to do the skin to skin for like an hour before I got moved to postpartum. Before I got moved to like the postpartum care section. And oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, as they're wheeling me over to postpartum care, I was just talking to the nurse that I had. Again, that nurse I had was amazing. Like, she really tried her best to like advocate for me, and I could tell that she actually like really cared about like what was going on with me and all that kind of stuff. So shout out to her. But yeah, so as she was wheeling me over to postpartum care, I basically just told her like, okay, this is the full story, you know. This is why I'm like really pissed, like, about with my doctor, because she was supposed to come. You know, I was not even supposed to deliver in this hospital. First of all, I was supposed to deliver in another hospital. I basically kind of told her the whole story. I could just tell that she was trying not to say something. I don't know what she wanted to say, but she was trying not to say whatever it is that she had in her mind. But quick little comedic relief. So June 14th is Donald Trump's birthday. And so we had this whole running joke. Before this whole debacle happened with my doctor not showing, me and all the nurses had like this running joke going that like we didn't want her to be born. Like, if they could push it as far as possible into the 15th so that she wouldn't be born on Donald Trump's birthday. But anyway, so I had her 12:45, June 15th. So yeah, the next day at 9 p.m., my doctor finally showed up. And she was basically like, oh, so sorry, I got in a car accident. And she showed me a picture of the car accident that, like, she got hit from the behind, and she showed me a picture of that, and then told me this whole story about the cops and how she had to go get a CT scan and all this stuff. I don't know. Honestly, me and Abigail were just kind of like, well, we don't really know if we believe her per se. I honestly don't have any reason not to believe her because, again, my first experience with her was great, but the whole thing, when I look back at it, it just looks kind of fishy, man. I don't know, but yeah, my mom does not believe her, especially because like her friend literally told us that like she does not show up. Like she has the other doctors at the hospital deliver her patients. So with that in the back of my mind, like that also makes me feel like maybe she's lying. But what do y'all think? Do y'all think that she's telling the truth or not? Do y'all think I was like, you know, being played? I really feel like I was being played. I don't know. Cause yeah, looking back at the whole thing, it's just very fishy, especially having me switch hospitals like last minute and then like not showing up. It's just weird. At the end of the day, I am very grateful that I am healthy. I'm very grateful that, you know, I had a healthy baby. I didn't have any complications. Like nothing actually extremely wrong um happened. And so I'm just grateful to God for like seeing me through that whole situation because, you know, if any complications happened or anything, like I would have been very uncomfortable with having, you know, medical students and residents taking care of me and all of that. So I'm grateful for that for sure. Everything worked out in the end. I just did not have a great experience through it. But going back though, like if I could do anything different, I would probably get a doula because I feel like just having someone there to really advocate for you is very important because like you might think that you'll be able to speak up and stuff, but sometimes like you might just not be able to or might not feel comfortable doing so. So I would definitely have a doula. And then some of the things, like, if you really think about it, they might not be necessary. Like breaking of my water, was that really necessary? Not really. They just needed to do it or wanted to do it to speed up the process. And then just them not listening to me when I said certain things, like, you know, wanting to have delayed cord clamping, and then obviously not wanting medical students or residents or a resident delivering her, they ignored. So having a doula there, that might have been something that the doula could have like spoken up for during, you know, when she came in, gloves on, about to start making me push. Maybe like the doula would have stepped in at that point. But that's basically what I would have done differently. You know, if I was to have another child, which I don't plan on it, I would definitely try and get a doula. But yeah, that wraps up my whole story. I can't believe I actually got my makeup done. Like, oh, I also wanted to say I'm most likely going to get a new OBGYN or just, well, a new gynecologist because I feel like I just don't trust her anymore. Again, I don't have any strong reason not to believe her, but just looking back at everything, it just, something fishy's going on. Like, it's a little fishy, you know? Let me know down below in the comments if you've had any like similar experiences. Let me know if you believe my doctor. And just in general, I really want to hear your thoughts on this whole story. If you stayed through and listened to the whole story, thank you very much. Let me know your thoughts below. As always, if you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will catch y'all on my next video. Bye. Thanks for watching.